We are back to no sugar cherry Coca-Cola. It's gonna be a long one today, so I had to go to the strong stuff, the cherry Coca-Cola, no sugar. The fat guy from Minnesota has declined his sugar intake by quite a bit in the last 4 weeks. Hopefully I can keep it going, because if I don't get in better shape, this college football YouTube channel, I'm going to have a stroke. Holy smokes. It is time for many of you, and I'm going to have to bring the tough love today because it's time. It's time for many of you to wake up and read the room. I get it that we're all stuck in our fandom. I get it. Much like politics, you all are stuck in your political parties and you demonize the other side, and you can't get out of your information silo, wake up and read the room. So, if a lot of you don't want tough love today, I'll see you tomorrow. Or the next day, or whenever you decide to come back. If you decide to come back, if you don't decide to come back, it's my loss, not yours. But my goodness, people have lost their minds. And I think, I don't know how else to do this. Really, I mean, I've been doing this. Look, people are sending me pictures all over the place. I'm getting raked over the coals today. And I don't even, I mean, why? I mean, just because we told the truth? So, and I'm going to use the word dopes. So the dopes who've been telling you all this stuff that hasn't happened, they're the ones who are not getting challenged. But the ones who've been telling you the truth are getting raked over the coals just because things have not turned out the way you thought they're going to be turned out. I got people sending me pictures, message boards, and they don't even make any sense. Use some logic. What is going on out there? Do you think every single reporter has knowingly lied to you? Or do you think every reporter out there has been duped by sources? It's not how it works. It's not how any of it works. This reminds me of the Big 12, the Pac-12 story, where there was mountains of evidence, and it kept growing and growing and growing and growing, and yet the Pac-12 and the School of Wharton character, they just could not wrap their heads around the fact that the Pac-12 could not get a media deal, and the Pac-12 was going to be successful in poaching. They couldn't handle it. And so, because they couldn't handle it, they accused me and John Kurtz and every national reporter out there for being a part of an Endeavor plot. It's the same people that are doing it again. They are complete dopes. They're selling you something that isn't anywhere true. But yet you want to believe it's so bad. Wake up and read the room. So today I'm gonna bring it, because a lot of people have been bringing it to me today. I'm gonna bring it right back, because wake up. Honestly, wake up. This ACC, Florida State Clemson, we don't know if the deal is going to take. We don't know if the deal is going to happen. We don't know if they're going to be able to log off any years from the gore. We don't know. I mean, when this stuff was reported last night, we did a breaking news story on it. According to reports this morning, not all the athletic directors even knew about this. So it's going to take some time. We're going to find out if they can reach the deal. If they can't, then we'll just continue on as is. But the idea, the very idea that still people believe that Clemson and Florida State have some sort of secret deal worked out with the SEC and the Big Ten blows my mind. How can you possibly believe that? it ain't true, number one. How can you possibly continue on like this? How can you possibly continue the charade? How can you possibly lead a fan base like this? You dope. And all the other people that follow it. And there's some really smart Florida State people who are hanging on to these dopes just because they're telling you something you want to believe. I'm sorry to go on a rant like this, but this has become even more outrageous than the delusion of the Pac-12 Big 12 story. I have spent day after day and week after week explaining the great value that Florida State brings. Everybody knows that. We don't need a chart. We know the great value of Clemson. The huge fan bases. They want winning football. They want winning athletics on emerging universities. They are fantastic. How many times do I have to say it? My goodness. Right now, it's just not the right fit. It ain't happening right now. They are not part of the SEC plans right now. And neither are they of the Big Ten. And it's for a host of reasons. Some of those reasons, Florida State and Clemson have no power over. Some of them they do, and they're probably going to be working on it for the next 3, 4, 5 years. But there is not an invite to the Power 2. And no, that is not a shot against the two universities. The SEC is looking to expand their footprint. They're looking for more diverse students. The apocalypse students, the student apocalypse is going to be happening in 2025. We have covered this like no other have covered it. It is the absolute truth. When the SEC is telling these reporters, yeah, we're looking at, North Carolina is going to be the number one target and whatever is connected to North Carolina. And the Big Ten, they're looking at North Carolina, they're looking at Notre Dame, and then maybe Florida State and Clemson and others will appear. Great universities, great value. Bigger value than most of the half of the Big Ten and the half of the SEC. I got all but praise for Florida State and Clemson. The only time that I challenged their value a little bit is when I demonstrated that I don't think Florida State and Clemson would ever get to the Big Ten on a blend. They're not the right blend, and I showed historical reasons. I put it up there. Okay, so here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. On June 15th, I did a live show and I said Petiti and Sankey have left the Holy Smokes Theater and they want to slow down. You move too fast. Remember all that? And I knew I was going to get crushed. Do you think I enjoyed doing that show? But guess what? We got the information. And it's absolutely, and I solid. And I told you all that in a very short time, after June 15th, you were going to get reports on it. And it happened. Florida State and Clemson actually and other ACC schools have had third-party talks with the Big 12 because they know the P2 is not happening right now. It isn't. It's not. And I don't care how many times a dope tells you that Florida State has an invite from the Big Ten. And then people say to me, well, Greg, you are so naive. Or they have a huge message board thread saying Greg is so naive. Of course, the sources are not telling the reporters accurate information because it would be torturous interference. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Most of the time, almost all the time, not quite all the time, but most of the time, the sources want to give the correct information to who they're giving it to. Number one, it isn't torture. It isn't. What is interference is if the SEC and the Big Ten had first-party talks with schools in the ACC, and they haven't. That's interference. But having third-party sources telling the reporters, yeah, Big Ten is just not interested right now in Florida State. Or the SEC is looking out something else. That's not interference. That's not breaking anything. So that destroys that theme that people have got in their brains. Another part of that is these sources who supposedly cannot tell reporters that the conferences are interested in schools because it would be interference. Well, these sources happen to say, but they're interested in North Carolina. So again, the logic is completely destroyed. These reporters were told the truth by multiple different sources. And I said last night, part of it was legal counsel. My God, I don't know what else you guys, I don't know what else you need to know. I mean, it's not happening. And again, it's not a shot at any university. It's just telling the truth. I don't know what is going on. If Florida State knew, if the dope was correct for the first time in a decade, if the dope was correct, if Florida State knew that they could write a $550 million check, $574 million check, if they knew they had an invite to the Big Ten, don't you think things would be different right now? But Florida State knows that they don't have a P2 invite. And the ACC knows that Florida, everybody knows. Everybody knows. Every single dang reporter that talks to sources, media partners, and the media partners leak like a sieve, they know the P2 is closed unless Notre Dame comes a knocking. And North Carolina don't have the ability to initiate litigation. So the P2 is closed. It's closed. And that's not a shot. It's just the way it is. On June 15th, we did a live show. And we explained all this. And I'm okay with people not believing me. That's fine. But we did a live show on this. And then we said there's going to be reports coming out. And then that happened. Every single reporter has the same story. But I guess that doesn't mean anything. I guess they're all just being duped. I mean, what? And then people are going to believe a dope that people don't even know his name. They don't know what he looks. I mean, come on. This is tough love here. But somebody's got to say it. And I've got Florida State Seminole fans who a couple of months ago have said, great, help us out here. We're being led, the whole fan base is being led down a road. So I tried. It didn't work. It didn't work. It's just really unbelievable. I get it. I mean, look, if you're a Clemson guy, if you're a Clemson woman, if you're a Florida State guy, if you're a Florida woman, You know how valuable your schools are. You know you belong at the highest tier of college athletics. And I have said from the beginning, you're going to get there because water is going to seek its own level. And Florida State and Clemson are high end. They're going to get there. But they don't have an invite. Not now. And they haven't. And the dopes that I've been telling you they have for over a year, they're just dopes. So wake up. Read the room. It's all you got to do is just wake up. If there is a deal that takes place, and I don't know if there's going to be a deal that takes place, there's going to be a 3 or 4 year window to where Florida State's going to be working on their relationships and Clemson and the whole world's going to change. Maybe we go into some super league. I don't know. We're going to follow. We're going to go where the story goes. We're going to go where the story goes. We're not going to have these automatic, whatever happens, we are going to give you what we believe to be the truth. And if we get one little small detail wrong, we're going to take an L. But just so that everybody understands, there is no L here. Not from this college football YouTube channel, not in another big story. But the people who've been saying that Florida State have had a deal for over a year, do you think they're going to take an L today? Of course not. Because they're not real. They're not in it for the right reasons. They're not in it to try to be as accurate as possible. They have their own trolling motivations. So wake up. Wake up and read the room. Thank everybody for coming on in. I appreciate it. We are going to, we've got a lot to cover. We're not going to be doing a roll call because I did my preamble to the monologue and my preamble went long. But I wanted to make sure it got at the start of the show because, man, there is some really smart people out there. A whole lot smarter than me. A whole lot nicer than me. A whole lot more successful than me. A whole lot of people, great people out there who've been absolutely duped and they still don't know it. Florida State and Clemson are going to get there because they're just too they're just too valuable not to get there. It's just going to take time. Okay, so we're not going to do the roll call. We are going to just go in. I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Blah, blah, blah. You're in the studio that sits on the corner of Jackson and Kurt Gowdy. And please subscribe, smash the like button. And if you want to donate to this Rebel Outpost Tough Love channel, hit the $sign and make a comment, and I'll get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do the PAC-12 update. PAC-12 update. And then we're going to make our selections against the spread for week 4. Yours truly, Greg the Ice Age. I am 13-21 against the spread. The PATC Frozen Tundra, the community, you are also 13-21 against the spread. We've got some interesting games in week 4, especially when you take into consideration the spread on these games. Very interesting games. And I have been shaking my head at a few of them. In fact, there's 2 of them. I still don't know what I'm going to do. So, I got a feeling that Greg the Gold is not making an appearance once again this week. Unfortunately. Let's get to the Pac-12 update. This is from Chris Vanini this morning. The Athletic. What we're hearing about the Pac-12, the AAC, the Mountain West, next move. Now, we don't go through the whole article. It's a great article. We'll provide a link in the description. We're just going to go through part of it that we're interested when it comes to the Pac-12 update. We're quickly going to go through this. The next phase of conference realignment is a tug of war. Can the rebuilding Pac-12 convince the like of Memphis, Tulane, and maybe a few others to come west and join their new conference? Or can the AAC convince its current members to stay and add a school like Air Force, to get Tulane and Memphis to stay? That's what's on board. The Pac-12 is attempting to go big, metaphorically, to create the best non-power 4 conference, the Frankenstein Conference that we've been talking about for months here at Peek Around the Corner. The Athletic spoke with more than a dozen people involved in the discussions. In no one sees an easy move, making it difficult to predict how it all shakes out. No school is sure what another will do, and they are all trying to set up calls to find out what each other are thinking ahead of the conference calls on Wednesday. It's up to the leadership of both conferences to convince a handful of schools of their vision. What are those visions and plans? Here is what the Athletic Chris Vanini is hearing. Pac-12. The poaching of the Mountain West for Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State came together very quickly last week. Small inner circle, right? Skipping down to the next paragraph. Having created some momentum, the Pac-12 is on the step 2 in its effort to create a best of the rest conference. Having grabbed the top of the Mountain West, it wants the top of the American Athletic Conference. As we have said here at Peek Around the Corner, creating a Frankenstein Conference. And it wants to do it as soon as possible in order to begin a real conversations with prospective TV partners. Multiple sources briefed on the league's thinking tell the Athletic that Memphis and Tulane are the Pac-12's top targets. Now, we said that, we reported that early last week before the big news broke, because we were told that this was all going to be happening here quickly. They're the top 2 targets. It's not clear that the 2 are sold yet on the league's speculative plan, and we reported that last night. Tulane wants more information, so does Memphis. AAC Commissioner Tim Prinetti was at last Saturday's Tulane-Oklahoma football game in Norman and was in Memphis on Tuesday for a previously scheduled visit. Both Memphis and Tulane have invested heavily in athletics and found recent success in football. The Tigers, who reached the 2019 Cotton Bowl, have upgraded their on-campus facilities and are in the process of upgrading Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium with help from taxpayer money. The department has a $25 million NIL investment from FedEx over the next 5 years. And the football team is 3-0, coming off a win at Florida State. Tulane won the Cotton Bowl 2 years ago and hired away Troy's successful head coach, John Sumrall, after Willie Fritz left for Houston. The school is also working on building a practice bubble. UTSA, North Texas, South Florida, and Texas State are among the other central and eastern options the Pac-12 is looking into. Now, I'm going to be honest here. Transparency, PATC. I know there's been reports about South Florida, and I am not going to be refuting those reports. But if South Florida ends up in the Pac-12, we are going to take an L in some part of the story. because we at Peek Around the Corner have been told that South Florida is not one of the top, even in the top 2 or 3 tiers of choices for the Pac-12. So I'm going to be making it clear. If South Florida becomes a member of the Pac-12, I will be happy to take the L on that part of the story. But UTSA, North Texas, Texas State, we talked about that early last week before this big story hit because we were given the information and we gave you guys a peek around the corner. Getting into Texas is especially important for certain Pac-12 schools. Again, we talked about the Texas two-step. We said basically those exact words early last week. And each prospective member has its own selling point. UTSA is at the top of the list, the top of the Texas list. Plan to merge with UT Health San Antonio will be a huge boost for the school and its resources. The kind of move schools presidents like. And it's located in the big city that has supported UTSA football. USF is now a member of the Association of American Universities, a prestigious academic group with working plans for an on-campus stadium, but it may just be too far away on the map. Back west, UNLV was left out of the initial Mountain West move. Rebels football is having its most and only success in decades, now ranked in a major poll for the first time, but the question is whether the school has enough support and investment that will continue past this moment in time. The belief is that UNLV can ultimately split from fellow university system member Nevada for a conference move is needed. We at PATC reported to you exactly that last night. There are 2 very distinct schools with 2 very distinct communities, media markets, trajectories. System Regent Heather Brown told the Los Angeles Review-Journal, I do not think under any circumstance they should be considered a package deal. It doesn't make sense. Some sources familiar with the league's thinking hope to land somewhere between 10 to 15 million per school per year, while other sources call that number premature and say it depends on who else joins. The number would be up from the Mountain West, estimated 6 million, AAC 7 million for original members like Memphis and Tulane. Industry sources believe TNT Sports could be a potential TV partner to watch for the Pac-12. Haven't recently picked up sub-licensed college football playoff games and some Mountain West games for True TV as it handles the fallout of losing the NBA. The CW already has a partnership with the 2-member Pac-12 and could look to expand that. What role will streaming play? The old Pac-12 had an offer from Apple that wasn't enough to keep members from fleeing to the Big Ten and the Big 12, but it could be part of the package. The Pac-12 has pitched its Pac-12 Enterprises production studio as a revenue driver and as help for would-be broadcasters. Again, this is a Pac-12 update from The Athletic. Barnes, Oregon State Athletic Director, said Saturday that the 6 Pac-12 schools have signed a long-term grant of rights to lock themselves together. I don't know what long-term means. What they've locked into remains to be seen. That unknown is what has AAC schools cautious about making a jump. But if 1 or 2 does, that would increase pressure on another to not be left behind. People are being very calculated and want more information, one AAC administrator said. And that is the exact words we used to describe we were told about Tulane. They're in the information gathering part of this They want more information, but there is a hard press coming from the Pac-12. The AAC's pitch to keep the likes of Tulane, Memphis, and others is multi-pronged. It has a long-term TV deal with ESPN into the early 2030s, providing stability and a lot more exposure. That deal, which has been the most lucrative among the G5, has a look-in clause coming up within the next 2 years, sources say. That's our best thing going. Our deal with ESPN, said one AAC source. Travel would be easier staying in the AAC. That is something that Memphis has talked about on the record, off the record. This is not Memphis. This is what they're worried about, the travel. With many AAC schools sitting in the major cities and many alumni in the East Coast, Tulane has a large alumni base in New York. Pernetti has also injected an energy forward-looking approach since taking over. He's been open about taking on private equity or capital investment, which would provide a financial boost to the schools. The Mountain West, down to 8 football playing members. The Mountain West is still assessing its next steps, most notably how much money can it expect to receive from the Pac-12. But with schools like UNLV and Air Force still eyeing moves, it's a precarious situation. Sources familiar with discussions believe, now get this, UTEP and Texas State are potential targets for the new Mountain West, as FBS members who won't have to make a transition. Sam Houston might be an option too. New Mexico State is in the region. Remember, they're in the Conference USA, but the school is going through a presidential search, and New Mexico, who's in the Mountain West, may not favor adding the Aggies. Tarleton, located in Stephenville, is another potential Texas option. The school just recently completed its transition from Division II. And finally, in this article, the question is what kind of Mountain West these potential additional schools would be walking into. Texas State likely prefers the Sun Belt, where it sits, or a possible future AAC invite. If the AAC loses a UTSA, Texas State might just slip on in to the AAC, while Conference USA has a grant of rights that makes an exit fee larger, the only G5 league with such an agreement. If these 8 Mountain West schools can stay together, we can add some teams. We can really be a good league. Wyoming Athletic Director Tom Berman told in-house media last Friday. If the Pac-12 can't add AAC schools, it's likely they're going to go and circle back to the Mountain West, and we could lose an additional member or 2 members. So that's why expansion is very, very important to the Mountain West. So you can see Wyoming's athletic director, they want the Mountain West to entrench and expand and to remain the Mountain West. And if that happens, we're going into the world of G5 to G6. So that's the Pac-12 update, basically mirroring most of what we said last night. Nothing is imminent, but it is fast approaching. Decisions are going to be made sooner rather than later. Memphis and Tulane, they're the biggest dominoes. Their decisions come first. And then the other dominoes will follow, like UTSA, UNLV, etc. Let's get to the selections. Let's get to the selections today. of week 4. And then we can circle back on what's going on in the ACC, what's going on with the Pac-12. But we got to talk some football. Football, we're making our selections. I'm going to make them. No, you guys are going first. It's your turn to go first. So we're gonna lead it off with the Friday night game, and then we're gonna go more into the ACC and what's going on there. Nebraska, Illinois, Friday night. We're gonna go through this quickly, but we got to make our picks. The PATC community goes first this week. Will Nebraska cover -7.5 point spread versus Illinois? Yes, you got Nebraska. No, you've got Illinois. The voting begins now. When we're done with the selections for week 4, we'll dive right back into the ACC, the Pac-12, and we'll open up the phone lines. You can let me have it. You can let me have it. Yes is Nebraska. No, you're taking Illinois plus 7.5 points. Yes, you're taking Nebraska -7.5. 5 more seconds to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The PATC community is taking Nebraska. We're on to the second game. The second game chosen is James Madison, 2-0 versus North Carolina, 3-0. Let's get to it as quick as we possibly can. Will North Carolina cover -10.5 point spread versus James Madison? Yes, you got North Carolina. No, you've got James Madison. Yes, North Carolina. No, James Madison. We will get the entrance music when I begin my picks. It's a close vote. Yes, North Carolina. No, James Madison. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. PATC community takes UNC North Carolina. North Carolina State and Clemson. Another ACC game in week 4. Will Clemson cover -20.5 point spread? Holy smokes. Versus North Carolina State. Yes, you're taking Clemson. No, you're taking North Carolina State. The voting begins now. Five more seconds to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No. PATC community comes out strong for North Carolina State. Very, very interesting. Kansas at West Virginia. I had to pick this game because both teams are 1 and 2. This is going to be a mind bender. What is going to happen? I had to have this game as part of the slate. And I'm telling you, some of you are probably upset with this, but here we go. Will West Virginia cover -2.5 point spread versus Kansas Rock Chalk Jayhawk? The voting begins now. Yes, West Virginia. No, you're taking Kansas. Big Ears Bowl says Kansas by 2 touchdowns. Come on. And of course, we're having a close vote. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. 5 seconds to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a close one, but West Virginia, about 55% of the vote. West Virginia PATC takes the Mountaineers to cover the -2.5 point spread. A kind of a fascinating game. I'm going to talk more about it when I make my selections here. Will USC cover -5.5 point spread on the road versus Michigan? USC Big Ten Conference game at Ann Arbor. Holy smokes. Yes, you're taking USC. No, you're taking Michigan. Giving you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 60% takes USC, the Trojans, to cover the spread. First Big Ten Conference game, and they're on the road in the Big House, but the community likes the Trojans. On to the next one. Georgia Tech at Louisville. Holy smokes. Will Louisville cover -10 point spread versus Georgia Tech? Yes, you're taking Louisville. No, you're taking Georgia Tech. The voting begins now. Ryan Thomas says this is a tough one. Big Ears Bowl, it's going to be a close game. Holy smokes. Not a whole lot of love for the Cardinals. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's Georgia Tech in a landslide. Okay. Very interesting there. Memphis, Navy. Now, last week, the community, the PATC community, and Greg, the cooler, we both got Memphis correct. They covered. So now Memphis is back in the mix here. Will Memphis cover 9-point spread versus Navy? The midshipmen. Hold on here. The voting begins now. Jay Chapman says, I bet this one's a push. We have not had a push yet. We're both 13 and 21. I'm going to give the voting 5 more seconds here. Whoops. I don't know what happened to the votes. There we go. We got a landslide, so I'm going to close it up now. Memphis in a complete landslide. Holy smokes. 86% of the vote. 86% of the vote. Okay. On to Utah. The big game in the Big 12. Big game in the Big 12. Will Utah cover minus 2.5 point spread versus Oklahoma State? If you say yes, you're taking Utah. You're giving 2.5. If you say no, you're taking the Cowboys and you're getting 2.5. The voting begins now. Giving you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Holy smokes! 71% says Utah will not cover. Oklahoma State in a landslide. Yowzer. Replica. Trusting Alan Bowman in a big spot is crazy. Wow, you guys, a PATC community, I can never quite get a handle on what this community is thinking at any time. Miami, Florida, and South Florida. At South Florida, will Miami cover minus 16.5 point spread versus USF, University of South Florida? Yes, you're taking Miami. No, you're taking the Bulls of South Florida. The voting begins now. Thank you all for joining us. I appreciate it. Wednesday afternoon show. We're making our picks for the week. We had a Pac-12 update. We talked about the ACC stuff. We'll go back to it. We're going to open up the phone lines after the selections are made. Going to give 5 more seconds to the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 63% of the PATC community takes the Miami Hurricanes. Tennessee. You must be from Tennessee because you are the only 10 that I see the Volunteers at Norman, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's first SEC game, conference game. Holy smokes. Will Tennessee on the road Will Tennessee cover the -7 point spread versus Oklahoma? Yes, you're taking Tennessee. No, you're taking Oklahoma. The voting begins now. My sister, Deborah Flugar, back then in high school, had the lead part in the musical Oklahoma, and the lead gentleman who had the lead part next to my sister was Steve Zahn, the famous actor. It was Deborah Flugar and Steve Zahn with the lead parts in Oklahoma back in 1985. 5 seconds to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 62% of the votes go to Tennessee. Tennessee. The community takes SEC. Tennessee on the road against the first game, Oklahoma, in the SEC. Okay. We got 2 more to go. So here we are. The PATC community, the community that keeps the show going, you know what to do. You know what to do. Will the Evil Hawkeyes cover the -2.5 point spread versus the beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers? Yes, you're taking the evil Iowa Hawkeyes. No, you are taking the beloved Golden Gophers. The voting begins now. It's a close vote. It could go either way. Giving you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bang! And the PATC community completely screws up. 53% of you said yes, and you take the evil Iowa Hawkeyes. Holy smokes. The last game on the docket for the PATC community here in week number 4. Will Kansas State cover the -6.5 point spread versus BYU? Yes, you're taking Kansas State. No, you're taking BYU. The voting begins now. Wow. Wow. This community, man, I can understand why you have a bad record just like I have. We had the same exact record last year. We have the same exact record this week after 3 weeks, and I completely understand now. You guys are as delusional as I am. 64% takes Kansas State. We're ending the voting. The PATC community took Kansas State. Okay. Now it is my turn. Now it is Greg the Gold's turn. It's time to make an appearance. The last 2 weeks I've gone 6-6 against the spread. This week it's a lock. I'm going 9-3. Let's go. Greg the Gold. Let's go! There is no chill in the air. Okay, here we go. We're going to go through them real quick. Ryan, Willie, I hope you didn't use the Tennessee pickup line on the Little General. No, I did not. The line I used on the Little General was, would you like to go out to dinner with me, a restaurant called, I can't even pronounce it. And she said no. So that's what happened when I asked her out the first time. Anyways, again, this studio sits in the middle of Loserville City, and I have been elected mayor once again. But this week, we're going to turn it around. Okay, here we go. There's a lot of locks in here. Lots and lots of locks. Nebraska, Dylan Raiola, 670 yards already, 5 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, 73.8% completion percentage. A true freshman. Dowdell Johnson, Emmett Johnson, Ramir Johnson. The running back room is pretty good. Isaiah Nair is the receiver that's taken over. Illinois has got some good stuff going on. Luke Altmaier, 69.2 completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Caden Fegan is running the ball for Brett Bielema. Pat Bryant, Sakara Franklin, who was the late transfer, joined Illinois. He's already had 16 catches. Illinois, Nebraska, I think this is going to be a very close game, but I've got the Cornhuskers. I've got Nebraska pulling it out at the end. I don't think Illinois is going to be able to stop Dylan Raiola in the fourth quarter. Like, my question mark on Nebraska still is their offensive line. And they're playing a team with a pulse for the first time this year. So, I think this line is pretty good. 7.5, but I think Nebraska wins this a little bit more than 7.5. So I got to take the Cornhuskers. I believe they're going to go be 4-0. James Madison, North Carolina. I'm not impressed with James Madison quarterback. I know they're 2-0. They haven't played anybody. Alonzo Barnett, he's not Jordan McLeod, who transferred to Texas State. He's not Jordan McLeod. They've got George Pettaway. Their offense is limited. I think North Carolina is going to get enough out of Marion Hampton and the combination quarterbacks that I think they're going to be playing, the Harrow and Criswell. North Carolina, I've got North Carolina covering minus 10.5. This surprises me. The North Carolina State Clemson game. The PATC community went big on North Carolina State. I went big on North Carolina State at the beginning of the year. I fell in love with her. I dated her. I asked her to marry me. We got married when I picked North Carolina State to win the ACC championship. But I am walking away. One of the major problems with the Wolfpack, and they've got many of them, is Grayson McCall is not even expected to start against Clemson. He's a day-to-day injury, but it's been reported today that CJ Bailey is going to be the starter. I mean, they're still getting great production out of KC Concepcion, 22 catches. Jordan Waters is a little bit slow off the starting block. Klubnik has got it going here. Mafa's got it going. So I've got Clemson covering this. I am shocked that the PATC community took North Carolina State in this game. Kansas, West Virginia. Now the community went with West Virginia. All right. Look, Jalen Daniel has thrown 6 interceptions. Devin Neal has been unstoppable on the ground. Unstoppable. Over 300 yards, 7.4 yards per average. Luke Grimm and Lawrence Arnold, the two experienced receiver for the Jayhawks, have gotten off to a good start. Garrett Green has overall played a little bit better than last year. A little bit better. Donaldson and White, they're both over. They're averaging both about 5.5 yards a carry. But that secondary is brutal. So, Jalen Daniels versus the secondary. Who do I got? I'm going to take Kansas. But this was a flip of a coin. The only reason I'm taking Kansas, I think, I think Jalen Daniels can be cured, but I don't think West Virginia's secondary this year can be cured. And I think there's more stability on the coaching staff at Kansas. I've got Kansas, but man, that is a tough one. That's a tough one. To me, this is another tough one. I'm going to agree and take the Trojans minus 5.5. I think it's going to be pretty close. I don't think it's going to be a Trojan blowout, but that's what I said. When Michigan got blown out in the second week against Texas. But I'm going to go ahead and take a Miller Moss and Michigan, changing the quarterback, Alex Orji. He's the new starter. I'm taking the Trojans. Georgia Tech and Louisville, I agree with the community. I thought you guys were going to go with the Cardinals. I'm surprised you took the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech. But I agree with you. And this is why. This is Georgia Tech's third game against a team with a pulse. This is Louisville's first game. I think it's going to be close because of that. Georgia Tech has been through the fire. Louisville hasn't this year. It's just been a walk in the park. And this game is going to be highly competitive. Louisville will probably win, but I'm taking Georgia Tech to cover. So me and the PATC community agree. We also agree on Memphis. We're both taking Memphis. The only thing, Navy has a good quarterback, Blake Norvath. He is good. He's their best runner, but they don't have much else. I'm taking Memphis to cover the 9. But watch this game. Navy does have a good, he's a player. He is a player in that option. He's going to run the ball effectively. He's going to make some plays against Memphis. But it don't look like they have anybody else. We're going to find out. Utah, Oklahoma State. Again, the community took Oklahoma State. There's no way I can take the Cowboys in this game. I have to see Utah get beat. Get beat in Big 12 play. But I cannot see, now maybe Utah only wins by 2, maybe by 1. But I think Utah is going into Stillwater and winning this game. I got Utah. I've got, another thing, I'm not sure what's going on, but Ollie Gordon, this is a very slow start for him. He's averaging 3.5 yards per carry. And I don't think Alan Bowman's going to carry the Cowboys over Utah. So maybe Ollie Gordon gets going here. But let's be honest. It's a very slow start for this incredible running back in Stillwater. Now, they still have Stribling and Presley and Owens. The Cowboys have a great wide receiver room, and Alan Bowman is playing better than I thought he was going to. So Oklahoma State this is going to be a battle. But until I see Utah lose, I've got Utah covering that. Miami. I don't have to say anything about this. Miami, unfortunately for the Bulls, Miami is going to go and just send another message. The Hurricanes are going to win this game big. I got Miami. And Cam Ward is playing on a whole different level. Restrepo, I mean, they've got 4 running backs that are doing really good right now. Receivers, Jacoby George, Sam Brown, maybe a little bit off to a little bit of a slow start. You got Horton in there. And all the Bulls have is Kelly Joyner, the running back, and the quarterback. They really don't have much. They don't, in what I've seen, they just don't have the weapons. They're not going to be able to keep up. They couldn't keep up in the Alabama game. They're not going to keep up in this game. I'd be happy to give 16.5 points. I'm taking Miami. Tennessee and Oklahoma. I agree with the community. I'm taking Tennessee. I don't think Oklahoma is 7 points away from Tennessee at home. I think this is going to be a 20-point win for the Volunteers. Iowa at Minnesota. We're going to skip over that one. Kansas State at BYU. I also have Kansas State covering, just like the community. I do like Mr. Jake Retzlaff. I know basically all the BYU fans are not encouraged, but I like him. I talked about him the last couple live shows. He is the David versus the Goliath. He's got a great story. I'm rooting for him, but I got to take that Avery Johnson cat, J.D. Giddens cat. I can't think of the guy's name, the running back, the transfer from Colorado, Dylan Edwards. That's the guy. Dylan Edwards. I'm taking Kansas State. So Minnesota, Iowa. I promised that I would not go for propaganda. Not this week. Ryan Willie, I hope you didn't use the Tennessee pickup line. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. I do appreciate it. Iowa. Caleb Johnson, the running back, has been a superstar. Superstar. Unbelievable start of the season. And it's not just the statistics, it's how he's getting them. You know, Iowa's passing game, it's better than last year's with Deacon Hale, but, you know, people are still putting everybody up in the box. And Caleb Johnson, the offensive line looks a little better than last year, Iowa's, but he's breaking tackles, man. He's showing such great vision, patience, and then acceleration, and he's breaking tackles. His runs, almost all of his runs look like he's getting everything out of it he possibly can. Caleb Johnson has 479 yards, 7.9 yards per rush, a bunch of touchdowns. He's been an absolute superstar. Caleb Johnson, Minnesota, our D-line, real good. Our back seven seems to be playing better, but he's going to be a challenge for our linebackers. And then Minnesota, Max Brosmere is getting it together. He's almost has a 70% completion percentage. The quarterback is starting to warm up. Darius Taylor is back. The Beast versus Caleb Johnson. I've got Minnesota Golden Gophers. Not only do I have the Gophers covering the spread, but I got the Gophers winning by 2 touchdowns. And not only do I have the Gophers winning by 2 touchdowns, I have a punt return or a kickoff for a touchdown by the Minnesota Golden Gophers against Iowa. We're going to turn the tables against the Hawkeyes. Coy Perch, the true freshman, is going to return one against the Hawkeyes, PATC. So there are my selections. We both got Nebraska. We both got UNC. You guys got North Carolina State. I've got Clemson. You guys got West Virginia. I got Kansas. We both have USC. We both have Georgia Tech. We both have Memphis. You guys got Oklahoma State. I've got Utah. We both got Miami. We both got Tennessee. We both got Kansas State. And you guys got Iowa. And I got Minnesota. We are opening up the phone line. 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Let me know what you think about the predictions we just made, our picks. Let me know what you think about what I said when it came to read the room. Call
from Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, Greg, thank you very much for picking Kansas State. That's a good omen. Greg the Reaper. I don't. That's a pretty bold pick on your Gophers, Greg. I don't share your optimism. I think the Hawkeyes are going to do to the Gophers the same thing they do in the Wild. But I have a question for you. So, in your opinion, with the it's interesting. Do you think they go for a 16 Western wing? I mean, would they go after an ECU or I know you're not on board South Florida. I mean, how far east do you think they're willing to go, and what do you think Memphis and Tulane kind of want?
I mean, I personally, I'm not on or off board the addition of South Florida. We have been told they're not like in the top. A lot of dominoes. There's going to have to be multiple dominoes that fall where the schools decide not to join the PAC for it to get to USF. That is what we have heard, and I'm willing to take the L. Right.
What number do you think? What number do you think they're going to go to?
I think they're going to go to 8 or 10.
Okay.
And again, if we're wrong, we'll take the L. But that's what we have heard, because it's kind of difficult. They still haven't really started official talks with potential media partners. So I think they want to keep the number down. But, in public, they said there is no limit to their numbers. So,
I mean, I'm just curious to see kind of, I'm just really curious to see what they do and how they deal with travel concerns because, excuse me, I could certainly see 14 where you have a 7-7 Eastern and Western wing and, really, and have 8 conference games. So you're really only traveling, long distance for one game. But, it's anybody's guess. So that's interesting. The second part I have is, how do you square what the Big Ten BTM told you about Miami being in the Big Ten between 2026 and 2029, and what's going on right now with the ACC shortening the GOR and basically giving more money to FSU and Clemson. And with that, I'll just go ahead and hang up and listen. And I don't want to take anyone else's time, but thanks a lot, Greg.
You got it. Thanks. Great call. I mean, first we're going to have to see if the deal happens, right? I mean, we have no idea if the deal's going to happen. And if the deal happens, does the GOR get shrunk to 2030 or so? While the BTM put a timeline on it of 26 and 29, I think what he probably really expressed the most is he thinks Miami's going to be a Big Ten member in the future. Above that is what he's most certain of. So I don't know, the timeline of 26 to 29, if I asked him today, maybe he'd say, yeah, well, maybe that timeline has to change, but I don't think his thoughts on Miami becoming a Big Ten member is going to change. So I hope that answers your question. And if I forgot another question, let me know. Tough Tony, Gophers by 2 touchdowns. Finally, the Kool-Aid is working. Thank you for your super chat. I appreciate it. Jeremy LaHaye, thanks for coming on in. Come on, Greg, a Big Ten fan calling another conference Frankenstein is laughable. Get acquainted with the map and look at the Big Ten nonsense. Well, number one, Jeremy, when I say Frankenstein conference, that's not an insult. That is not an insult. And number two, the Big Ten is a Frankenstein conference. The first Frankenstein conference. So it's definitely not an insult. I don't mean that as like it's a monster and it's gonna. It means that they're taking parts from other conferences. They're taking the best parts of what they believe. Not an insult whatsoever. And I would agree with the Big Ten. In fact, Jeremy, I was the one who said that the Big Ten was going to go to the USC was talking to the Big Ten. We broke that story, and Southern California was a long ways away. And yeah, you don't have to tell me that, Jeremy. I'm the last person you need to tell that. Frankenstein is a doctor, not a monster. True. Yeah, that was a great call by Ryan. Great call. Excellent. PAC staying regional is a death knell. Well, I think they're going to get to the central time zone by hook or by crook. Again, if University of South Florida becomes a member, it'll be fascinating. It's an emerging, it's an AAU school. It's going to have its own. I understand it on paper. I completely understand it on paper. I understand why University of South Florida would be interested. I understand why the Pac-12 would be taking their calls. What I have heard, they're not on those 2 tiers list. We'll see. We shall see. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333.
Call from
JD.
JD, the floor is yours. What's going on, sir? Let it rip.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Well, that's good. I don't know what interactions that you've had today. I've had quite a few with quite a few people, but I heard a little bit. I heard the first part of your show, and then I had to go to a meeting. But I'm going to be honest with you. You're telling people what they don't want to hear, and they're not going to stop doubting you until it's proven true. And it just is with the FSU scenario. Mm-hmm. They just genetics. They believe him because he's telling them what they want to hear, and it's things that they've heard for years. Part of the backstory is that the media had the grant of rights, the composition clause. They had so many aspects of all of the background leading up to this point wrong. People assume, and I haven't had discussions with people. I've just been observing. Mm-hmm. I haven't even been on the thread a lot lately. I have been since last night. I've been on there a good bit. And you're not really receiving a lot of pushback. There's people that don't agree with you, but there's not really much.
Well,
unless somebody sent you something I didn't see.
Yeah, I mean, people are sending me stuff all the time that nobody sees, which is fine. I mean, that's how it should be. But no, I got people coming at me, and I'm not talking about what's out in public on Twitter. I got people.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I have my DMs. I don't block people. My DMs are wide open. And then I got people sending me stuff from all sorts of places. And I saw some of those things on War Chant today.
Yeah.
I mean,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm okay with that. But the problem is, you got to flip this. You got to flip the script here. I mean, people are asking for evidence that the SEC and the Big Ten are really not interested in expansion right now, unless Notre Dame comes a call in, or that Florida State and Clemson are not the top targets. It's just I'm telling you, man. These conferences, the sources, they have not made this mysterious at all. They have told all the reporters the same thing. They all have the same story. Now you say, Greg, I don't have evidence of that. Where every reporter who's willing to put anything out there is saying the same thing. And I would say this.
I recognize that because I'm starting to get a lot of pushback because I'm just telling folks, hey, there's no interest from what I can tell from the SEC at the moment. And the Big Ten, it doesn't seem to be. There's a few people that I've trusted in the past that are still adamant that something's different. And the only thing I could say to them is, hey, I hope you're right. That's all.
Well,
because I can't.
I would say this. First of all, there are some people who, just, it happens to me. It happens to everybody. Some people got some information wrong, whatever. But they were not trying to get it wrong. I make mistakes. We're just all human, right? There's some people out there, they know they don't know squat. And they're leading a whole fan base over a cliff. That's what I'm upset about. Number one. Number two, don't you think, and I've asked this question, I really haven't gotten a good answer from anybody. Don't you think if it was true that Florida State knew that they had an invitation ready to be given to them by the Big Ten, don't you think the proceedings that are going on right now would be different? I mean, they would be. Florida State would be doing something different here. They would be, they'd probably write the massive check. I mean, the problem is, and I'll let you have the floor after this, JD. I apologize, but
no, you're good. You're good.
The problem is, it isn't, and I said this last night, and I think people misperceived what I said, and maybe it's my fault, but not only have all the reporters been told the exact same thing, but they have been told by certain people in the conference, and I said legal counsel, they have told these reporters this, and they're just not lying. And I have praised Florida State and Clemson. I have praised their value. There are tremendous football programs. They're way more valuable than more than half of the Big Ten schools and half of the SEC schools. I mean, I have praised them up and down. But right now, the Big Ten and the SEC are not interested. I put this story out on June 15th. I said, now when you say, Greg, you haven't really proven anything. On June 15th, I put this story out there, knowing that I was going to get crushed. And I also said there's going to be stories coming soon that are going to be expressing the same thing I just said. And that happened. So was that coincidence? No, it wasn't coincidence. The fact is that the Big Ten and the SEC have not made it a secret. They are not lying. There's so much stuff going on in those two conferences. There's so much politics. They don't even know what they've decided on is the best thing for those conferences. They don't know squat, right? They're trying to work things out. So there are so many things that are outside of Florida State and Clemson's control that is going on right now. Governance stuff, a whole bunch of stuff. And there are some stuff that is in Florida State's and Clemson's control, which they're working on and they're going to work towards. But I will always side on the side of telling the truth as I know it, even if it gets crushed. And I'm telling you, everybody has the exact same story, and they cannot be all lies, and they're not all incompetent. That's my point. Instead of believing a guy that nobody knows the name of, they haven't seen the face of, it is unbelievable. Look at it from my perspective, JD. Look at it from my perspective. Here is a dope, a clown, who got the USC story completely wrong and went after me for 3 months. And then when everybody in the whole country found out he was wrong, they put him in the Los Angeles Times story, and he still won't admit that he got it wrong. This is the same cat who got the Washington, Oregon story completely wrong. He's blocked thousands of Duck fans over the year. Everybody laughs at the guy. And then he got the Colorado story wrong. So then he finds a new victim. He goes to the Florida State message boards and he throws this crap that Florida State has an invitation ready in hand over the last year. I'm telling you, you can't tell me what his name is, you can't tell me what his face is, but yet people are going to say that all these reporters are lying and I'm lying and this guy's telling the truth. It's time to read the room. It's time to wake up. And I'll let you have the floor, JD. And I'm not talking about you, JD. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you. You have a sense of curiosity that is greater than 99% of us. You're an incredible dude. The Seminoles are an incredible fan base. That's why I have been so vocal, because you are an incredible fan base. You've been duped. Not all of you, but I'm saying, and then I got a guy showing me pics that he's been knocked off a board. He's been silenced. He's suspended because he's telling the truth on a board. It's just whatever. Go ahead, JD. The floor is yours.
Oh, I didn't know anybody had been suspended, but the whole thread had gotten real quiet over the last few weeks because there wasn't a lot going on. But up until like yesterday, it's pretty active right now. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't getting online as much just because I couldn't hold my tongue, you know.
Yeah.
I would just, I was trying, and the moderator kind of politely a month or so ago just said, "Hey, you know, you can DM each other if you have an issue."
Yeah,
and
I
just stopped.
And I just want to let you know, I haven't been receiving any pics lately except for this morning, early this morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, geez, I mean,
yeah,
I'm gonna ask you though. I'm gonna ask you the same question. If Florida State knew that they had a route to the SEC right now and the Big Ten, wouldn't they be acting differently than they are right now?
Yes, for the most part.
Yeah. So that's
you know, getting out of right now, and again, I'm not saying I disagree with you, because do I believe what you're stating is exactly where things are? Yes, I do. Now, do I believe if they were miraculously free today, could circumstances change? In my heart, I think yes. But how do you get there that quickly? And you can't. This is going to be years. This is going to be years no matter what. So, you know, I think what you're stating is accurate unless there is some I don't know. I don't know. There's been a few people that have said things, and I'm not even gonna go into it because I wouldn't even know how to explain it all, you know. So I'm just gonna leave those alone. But I'm not saying any of those conspiracy theories I believe. I'm just saying there's, you know. Let me just leave that be.
Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
What do you now? You know, this whole I mean, what do you think is going to happen here? I have no idea. Like, are they going to really get down to brass tacks and figure out a settlement where they're going to lop off a couple years of the gore, or 6 years of the Gore, which would be a complete victory for Florida State and Clemson, in my opinion. Are the other schools going to, I mean, what is in it for the other schools? I mean, this is really like complicated, man. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, they're being told that the case is not going well. I saw Andrew Carter, and I kind of responded to him on Twitter a little bit earlier. I don't know if he'll respond
What was that?
back. I said, some of them believe that the cases are not going well for Florida State.
Oh.
See, the North Carolina media is very homerish.
Yep.
And I've noticed Florida State media, you've got a little bit of a slant, but they're fair. Matt Baker is very fair. He's right down the middle. It's just a fact. Sometimes if he shows his hand every once in a while, one way or the other, but for the most part, he tries to be very fair and down the line. Do you agree?
Yes.
Matt Baker?
Yes, absolutely. I think Jeff Cameron is great. I think I can't say his last name.
Chappelle.
I
Yes.
think he's great. I think the Florida State 247, Chris Nee, I think he's outstanding. I think you got a bunch of talent. I think, and the reason why you have a bunch of talent is because you got to be talented because you have such an incredible, large, and valuable fan base who know their stuff. So you got to be on the mark to be a beat reporter down in Florida State, in Tallahassee. So I agree with you, man.
Well, I was even talking about Matt Baker at Tampa Bay Times. He's been very fair and down the middle for the most part on a lot of this stuff. North Carolina media is very homerish, very homerish. I mean, to say they have a bias is an understatement. And so it's really hard for people to get a really good feel on things because it's like they're cheerleaders. That lawyer David McKenzie. I think he's on the ACC payroll as far as I'm concerned. But
again, I've said this story before. He blocked me.
Yeah.
And I never said a word about him. I don't know why he blocked me. And all I can figure is because I thought that Florida State had a good day in the courts that day, right?
Yeah.
But I've also had days when I said, I think ACC had a good day in the court today. So I don't know. But he blocked me after I said, I think Florida State had a good day in the courts, which means nothing because I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what I'm talking about. But he took offense to that, I think, and he blocked me. I don't know.
Here's the tip-off, okay?
Yeah.
As of last Friday, I believe it was last Friday, how, All Knowles on Twitter, All Knowles, I think you've interacted with him.
Yeah, I like following him.
He had checked the Leon County Court website, and there was no appeal or anything that was logged in on the website, and I believe this was as of last Friday.
Okay.
Kinsey had come out with a post. It was either later that day or Saturday talking about the upcoming, or we should hear something about the ACC's response this next week. In other words, he knew they had filed it. He knew they had filed an appeal. And so he knew it before it was even filed on the court website. So to say he doesn't have any part in all this, I absolutely believe that there's a working relationship between him and the ACC. Absolutely. He wouldn't. He's more of a propagandist because there's been times now he hasn't blocked me, but there's been times that I've come on and I've disputed some of his allegations and he just doesn't respond. Maybe he's got me muted. I don't know. But he just doesn't respond. And other people will respond, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like I said, do I believe you and what you're hearing and everything else? Do I believe that's the status quo? Yes. Again, if FSU and Clemson were magically free today, do I believe there could be some type of a working some type of scenario they could get into the Power 2, sure, I do. I believe that they're that valuable of a brand. But, again, that doesn't mean that there's not a pecking order. Doesn't mean I know relationships matter. I still have a hard time believing Miami would get in over FSU, but I understand there's other circumstances that might predicate that. But 5 or 6 years is a long time.
Yes,
a lot
it
can
is.
happen in 5 or 6 years.
Yes,
So,
it is.
as far as a pecking order today, it doesn't matter to me what a pecking order is today, because matters if the grant of rights is basically sunsetted in 2030. If that happens, again, a lot happens in 5 or 6 years.
Yep.
So,
yeah, and
but I'm not so sure that
yep,
in 5 or 6 years that we even have to worry about getting into the Power 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because there could be that football breakaway anyway. So we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't
know. And we're going to go where the story goes. We
just got to get more money and get ourselves into a better position.
I think Florida State and Clemson are going to get where they need to get because they're too valuable not to. It's just the way it is.
Got my fingers crossed.
Yep. Alrighty, man.
All right, sir. Thank you
Good
for your
deal,
time.
sir. Appreciate the call.
Have a great day.
Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Talk about the game that your team is playing this week. Talk about anything you want. The floor will be yours. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this Rebel Outpost channel with a donation. Hit the $sign where you make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Wednesday is our most difficult day to put on a live show. So every Wednesday when I'm able to get in here and do a show, I'm so grateful, and I'm grateful that you all showed up. I appreciate it. It's week 4. Week 4. Some of the, now this week we got more conference games than ever, and then week 5, it's conference games all over the place. So the drama is going to be starting to pick up here. Conference play, conference record, no divisions. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Thank you, Preston. Everybody hit the like button if you like our content today. If you don't like our content, hit the thumbs down button. Appreciate it. Five years is nothing. Florida State can work on trying to get AAU. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're going to work on what they control. But we'll see. I mean, we don't know if, again, this settlement might not happen. The settlement might not happen. Maybe the odds are against it, obviously. So what if it doesn't happen? Then we continue on with the court cases. We'll see what happens with this media deal, look in, look out, option and option, whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe this is. We'll see if the new Gore has to appear. There's still people that I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I've been down that one too many times lately. So maybe a settlement does not happen. Then we just continue on with this murkiness. Stephen McNeely, I always like your content. Thank you, Stephen. Hold on one moment.
Call from
Steve.
Steve, Mr. Bearcat, can you just hold for one moment, please?
Sure.
I appreciate it. Stephen McNeely, thank you for your early peak membership. 10 months. Holy smokes. 10 months you've been a member. You are hereby knighted, cloak and dagger, once again. Thank you for your generosity, Mr. Stephen McNeely. I appreciate it. Bearcat Steve, I appreciate your patience. The floor is yours.
Well, Greg, I don't really want to talk about the PAC or the ACC today.
Beautiful.
I just want to talk to my peers there in the chat that vote, that we do our voting on each game. This is a public service announcement for them.
Yeah.
Next week, you pick first. So we're going to make our big move next week, gang. Let him pick first. Everything he picks, we go directly opposite. That's our big move. We jump out front, and then we hold that lead for every week. You know, we just go 500 when we have to pick first. Because your track record's not real good when we pick first that you're going to go 500.
My track record is exactly your guys' track record.
Well, that's why I'm coaching them up, and
right.
we're going to use some strategy.
I walked right into that trap. You're right. That's a strategic move. I don't know if the PATC community is, how do I say this? Organized enough, disciplined enough, and I'm going to say this, intelligent enough to pull it off,
Greg,
pull this grand scheme off.
I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm smart enough because you make your picks to write them down, and then when it's our turn to pick, I come right in the chat and say, Greg picked Appalachian State, so we're taking North Carolina. Okay, I will come into the chat. I will type every one of your picks, and we're going opposite.
Oh God.
Anyhow, Greg, no, I don't have the patience to do that.
No, go ahead, try to pull it off here. This might be my chance to pull away from you. So you guys, Vox Quindardo, our big move.
It's going to make it easy for us because we're just going to pick the opposite of you.
Yeah.
So
you
the
got
pressure's
no work
really
tomorrow.
on you.
I mean, next week. Yeah.
Well, the pressure's on you.
I'm losing you, Steve. I'm losing you, Steve. I lost
All
you.
right.
You're back. We lost you for a moment there.
All right. Hey, have a good evening.
I appreciate it, my man. Great call.
All right.
Fantastic. Beautiful call. He's planned the big move. It's the big move. Can Bearcat Steve pull this off? Jose, in organized revolt. Ryan Thomas, I'm getting a mushroom Swiss at Red Robin right now. You are close to one of the two exceptions. The two exceptions that make it the rule that meat and cheese should be separated. The one exception is Parmesan with chicken in different ways. Parmesan chicken for one. Or putting Parmesan on your hot wings. Or Parmesan chicken, that's an exception to the rule. And the other rule is turkey and Swiss. But not beef, mushroom, and Swiss. That goes against all that is good and holy about the human palate. Jay Chapman, I don't like my cheese in my salad. Salad is veggies only. Holy smokes. Jay Chapman is going after the cheese conspiracy in a whole nother angle. No, turkey and Swiss. Turkey, the meat, turkey and Swiss sandwich. That is acceptable. Because turkey is not a meat that has that flavor that you want. Like, I don't want my burger, my pork, my fish, my meats to be saturated, flooded, dampened, weakened by cheese. But turkey is a meat that it's okay if you know. And Swiss is the cheese that goes with turkey. I mean, you can't have a turkey and cheddar sandwich. So turkey and Swiss is one of the two exceptions to the rule. Again, talking about the ACC deal, if you look at what's been, if you look at what has been reported, like the contours of the deal, it's a really good deal for Florida and Clemson. I mean, what are they giving up? What is Florida State and Clemson? They're possibly getting the gore lopped off a little bit. They're going to get more money. It's going to be more. They're going to be more. They're going to have the ability to pay out possibly in a few. I mean, it's all the. There's got to be something there for some other schools in that conference for this great compromise to happen, in my opinion. So there's got to be more to the, if it's going to happen, there's got to be more to the deal that we're not seeing, that hasn't been reported on. You know, to me, it's if it works, if it happens, it's the great compromise in which everybody, all the entities of the deal are hedging their bets a little bit. So not everybody loses completely. Not everybody wins completely when eventually Florida State and Clemson leave the conference. Everybody gets a little bit of a victory. Everybody gets a little bit of defeat. Nobody loses completely. Everybody hedges their bets. That to me is the only way it works, that it gets that the deal gets done. But I could not possibly come up with the contours of what that would look like. Memphis, if they join the Pac-12, would be the only school that would be a national contender in both football and basketball. Oh, and there's no question the Pac is all in on Memphis. No question about it. The Memphis and Tulane are the top two targets. We reported that early last week, before this all happened. The question is, does Memphis get a better deal? Something happens in the AAC, the travel questions. I do think ultimately Memphis and Tulane do join the PAC, but that is my take on what I'm hearing. No one is reporting that to me. Yeah. That's what we believe at T-Duck. Yeah, I don't know what I haven't listened to Monty in such a long time. I don't think it's ever going to happen again. I just... anyways, we are going to close it up. We've been on the air for 2 hours. We're going to say the same thing we said yesterday. Keep your head on a swivel. We could come on live again. This story, this PAC-12 story, the ignition switch it's going to be flipped sooner rather than later. The Pac-12 is not going to wait all day on this. They're going to move to the next targets. That targeting, that moving to another target is basically the leverage that the Pac-12 has, and it's only effective for so long. So we have been told this is going to move real quick. So again, if something happens tonight and I'm available, we are going to come on live. Wednesday nights are pretty tricky for me. So before you leave, subscribe to our channel, smash the like button, turn on those notifications. I appreciate the donations, the phone calls, the great comments in the chat room. We did our selections. Greg the Gold is going 9-3. I don't know what you guys are going to end up doing. We both have the same record, 32-21 against the spread. This is our week, hopefully, here at Peek Around the Corner. So until next time, and it could be real soon from now, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.